Hi, my name is Ritu Bararia. I am the Senior Director at School of Communications and Reputation. I also lead PR Club of India, which is a learning avenue for PR and communications professionals, wherein we curate and host learning sessions for the community. Today, I am in conversation with Jasmine Bahen. She is the Chief People's Partner, APAC at Edelman, and she's based in Singapore. Jasmine comes with a vast experience of many years with her, and her top skills are executive search, talent management, and resourcing. Welcome, Jasmine, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Jasmine, you would have seen how the communications and PR space has been growing, it has been ever evolving for the last, let's say, about a decade or so, in comparison to what it used to be prior to that, which was more traditionally done PR and comms and, with very limited skill sets which were actually required at that point in time. So, now you also see that, a lot of people from various other professions are switching over to PR and communications. They come with a different skill set. So it's a very heartening and a very joyous situation, I think, for the fraternity. So the conversation is going to be around this only, Jasmine. And my very first question to you is, what do you think are the top 2 trends that you believe will shape work this year?
I think that's a great question. Talent seems to be the topic on everyone's mind. A couple of days in India, and everyone that we've spoken with has really talked about the shortage of talent that is being faced. And I think that's not unique to India. I think one of the biggest trends that we'll see, and also one of the biggest opportunities that we have, is this really borderless talent. And I think that is something that we will talk more and more about in terms of the opportunities for folks from different markets to service multiple markets. And, we're starting to see that across our team. The beauty of us coming together as one Edelman is when we bring expertise from Korea and India and the US all together to solve a problem for a client. And I think that not only helps our clients, but also helps our people in their development. So I think that sort of borderless talent will be something that is a trend that we will see. I think if I look more sort of holistically, the topic of future of work is still kind of not defined. and I think that is going to be something that will continue to evolve as we see how things are. The workplace as it is now is different to what it was 5 years ago. And I think it will just continue to change. And I think that agility and adaptability are going to be the skills that we need our folks to have in order to kind of drive forward the future of work. So I would say, I said 3 actually: agility and adaptability. I said borderless talent and really kind of future of work, kind of all rolled into one, are probably the things that are going to drive us forward.
Very well said. Thank you. My next question for you is, what are the keys to managing employees working in remote and hybrid mode? I think that's a very pertinent question.
Yeah, and it's a great question to ask.
And it's a great challenge.
Yes. So I think the key in terms of managing an employees in a hybrid workforce is trust. At Edelman, we measure trust, and we see that relationship between the employee and the employer has become more and more important. As to the relationship between co-workers, India has one of the highest percentage of that being such an important element. But I think unless that trust really exists, then it's not going to work. And so I would say that is the key to managing.
Fantastic. I think the transparency between the employee and the employer has also increased, and it's a fair game, actually.
I think, if someone has a dog or their child gets home at 4:00 in the afternoon, we wouldn't have known that previously, because we've suddenly had that glimpse into someone's personal life.
And it's all right.
Yeah, that's being human, right? And I think we've let down that, and everyone has a glimpse into everyone else's life.
Correct. What does it take to build a solid culture with the principles of transparency, authenticity, and ownership?
Ooh, it's a big question.
It's a solid one. It's a solid one. Yeah.
I think that I heard a fantastic phrase this week, and it said, clarity creates capacity. simple but effective. And I think that to really make it easy for folks to know where they're going, all of that just happens. And so, organizations talk about that North Star. They've got to double down on that in order to create that culture. The culture is not a program. It's not something that sits with HR or sits with the business. It's an evolved feeling over time. But I think where organizations can really help themselves is by being very clear. This is where we're going, and then people will feel freed up. One of the challenges over the last 3 years has been burnout for so many organizations. Clarity creates capacity. You suddenly have capacity because you're focusing on the key things, not things that don't make sense.
So, the biggest challenges facing the HR sector with regards to embracing next-gen technologies.
I see it as an opportunity more than anything in terms of next-gen technologies. I did a bit of a kind of test with my team, which is across 12 markets, and said, who's using ChatGPT? And everyone said yes. And it was, I think what sort of my aha moment was in that is that they were using it to write letters, not work-related, but it helps kind of unlock a door for folks whose English is the second language. That suddenly things become a much more even playing field. And I think that embracing that in a really thoughtful, meaningful way and seeing what works. As an organisation, we have just we have created 2 hours and 11 minutes of mandatory generative AI training. And it really talks about how do you use AI in a really thoughtful way. And that's not only to the HR sector, but that's to everyone. So I think that AI reinforces a really essential skill, which is being curious. I'm sure that it is not, there's still things that everyone is working out and companies getting guidelines about what to do and what not to do. But being curious in your personal life and playing around with new technology, Mid-Journey, drawing beautiful graphics, or ChatGPT asking questions on how to plan your holiday, that's stuff that used to take us weeks and months. So applying that and then applying that curiosity to work, I think we'll all be better for it.
Can you share the top skills that you think will have a major impact on the talent landscape and organizational competencies?
Yeah. I mentioned sort of at the start of our conversation, agility and adaptability as skills that, will help folks continue to deal with change. Change is the only constant, I think, in the world today.
Correct.
And so through kind of owning that and recognizing that agility is and adaptability is something that can be learned, I think that is a skill that's really important. Curiosity is another one, is one of our employee value propositions. Curiosity is momentum. It keeps things moving.
Absolutely.
And, one of our other pillars of our employee value proposition is empathy as progress. We talk a lot about empathetic leadership and what does that mean. We talked earlier about, we've got that insight into someone's personal life and their situation and over the last 3 years of COVID. And so I think as managers and as leaders, being empathetic with our colleagues becomes really important. I think the final piece is really sort of tied to agility and adaptability is the mindset piece. Having that sort of growth mindset and thinking about what else, what more can we be doing rather than this is where we are now, because it all evolves around how much change there is. And so I think those skills will help us navigate through the change.
Right. As data becomes important for almost every organization, the competition for talent increases too. How can you gain a competitive edge in the talent?
If I had the answer to this, I'd be a very wealthy lady. But I think that one of the key ways that organisations can really think about this is through kind of strategic workforce planning. Thinking about the organisation in a way, in sort of 6 key ways. How do we bind our employees? Who are the talent that we want to keep, and because the chances are that our competitors will be tapping on their door and really thinking about that. You know, where can we potentially borrow some talent? You know, are there organisations that we could, you know, have a co-opetition model that perhaps have a skill that we know we need, but we don't necessarily want that within our part of our fabric.
Right.
I think the other piece is really around, you know, technology. How can we use bots to really help us from a process point of view? You know, I think that when we think about talent and the talent marketplace, it's evolving so much. So processes, really looking at processes and saying, where can we take elements of this out and really kind of streamline that will help organisations identify the types of talent that they really need moving forward. Yeah.
Yes.
I think also around buy, you know, some organisations, their growth will come and the way that they will attract talents is through buying other organisations. You know, we've had success. We recently acquired a public affairs business with Landmark in Europe and in Asia and a small part in the US. That was a great way to build and up our own capabilities through buying.
Correct.
Yeah. And then, you know, finally that sort of build, you know, how do you build the capabilities that exist and bounce those you don't need? Because through looking at that in a much more sort of structured manner, organisations won't all be competing for the same talent. They'll have a multi-pronged approach to talent.
Mm-hmm. Right. What does HR transformation mean to you today? That's quite a tricky one. Yes.
You know, when people ask me, it's the kind of dinner party question, right? When folks ask me, oh, you work in HR, now they don't step away, which they used to for a really long time. You know, I think HR, our function has evolved so much. You know, in the last 3 years, we've been real estate agent, medical officer, payroll. You know, we've kind of had to do it all, right? And I think HR transformation is really about evolving with what's happening and with the change. I think also that the HR transformation is also about the role that we're playing within businesses. You know, when you think about the C-suite, you've got the CFO, the COO, the CEO, and the CHRO or CPO, whatever the terminology you want to use. I think the expectation has become that our roles are becoming a lot more interchangeable as well. So, you know, the point of view that a chief people officer can bring to the equation is, yes, it may be about the people side, but also I should need to understand the financial side. So I think that HR transformation is, you can't put us in a box anymore, right?
Yes.
Because we're evolving as business evolves.
Right. Some of the biggest challenges that HR leaders must prepare for, always,
I think is being ready for change, right? And making sure, you know, back to that sort of skill building around agility and adaptability, making sure that we're helping the organisation be ready for the change as well. So I think that's the piece that we really need to double down on.
Correct. Given the uncertain global economic environment and today's concerns about inflation, do you think that people's views of money, monetary versus non-monetary benefits has changed?
Oh, again, a tough question.
It is, yes, indeed.
I think it depends to some extent on the generation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I think of kind of when I entered the workforce a while ago, there was just, you know, we're happy to have a job, really happy to have a job. Oh my gosh, I get a salary. This is amazing. I think as work has evolved, their expectations have changed and generational expectations have changed as well. You know, when I started work, we had sick leave. Now we have wellness leave, you know, which is really focused on taking time out to focus on yourself. You know, things that have become table stakes over the last, you know, even 10 years, I think people just take it as table stakes. And so the pressures of inflation, all of that, in my conversations with people, cash is king, you know, and so people still are focused on what is my base salary, what does that mean for me, and there's somewhat of an expectation that all of the other elements are table stakes. So, the approach to total rewards, and I think we need to shift from compensation and benefits to that total rewards conversation, is very much about explaining to our employees the different elements and how holistically it helps, address those inflationary pressures, whether it be, the medical insurance, how this complements that, how taking time out is important. But it's a constant struggle for organisations and to really continue to kind of imagine what more and what other elements we need to think about.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a daunting task for all of you, yes. Since I am representing the best PR institute here, so a very fundamental question I had for you on behalf of the students.
Sure.
What do you think are those key professional skills which are required of a newbie who is entering the corporate after their graduation or their studies or education and all, once they're entering the corporate? What do you think are those top 3-4 skills that you look for?
Yeah, I think being a great writer as comms professionals, I think that is something that's feedback we get, that ability to write well is going to be a skill that people are going to need throughout their comms career.
Absolutely.
I think that adaptability and that ability to flex and that ability to move with change, I think is really important. Being curious, the world is changing so quickly, and there's new technologies and there's so many new things entering every day, that staying curious and asking yes and
yes, absolutely.
Really will help folks kind of continue to evolve their career. And I would just encourage, grads to be saying yes and more. And really the other piece is around, our world has become so small, is just kind of understanding that, everyone has come from different parts of the world, and all together we are working together in a really kind of meaningful way, and that opportunities within, certainly within an agency environment, is that you do get to work with folks across, 66 countries in our case, on a daily basis, and the way that you interact with one may be different to the other. And so that flexibility is going to set them up for success.
I couldn't agree more. I think that was a very, very insightful and really very, very informative conversation that we had, Jasmine, with you. And it has answered all the key questions that I had for you on behalf of all the viewers who would be viewing it, including the students here. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Jasmine, for this. And all the best to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And we look forward to hopefully meeting some of these students soon.
Absolutely.
Cheers. Bye-bye.